Lucas, thank you so much for coming back on the AIM podcast for another episode.
What's up, man? I appreciate you having me. Second time, special little moment here. It's a big full circle here from the very first one. He was the first, like second, third day I ever met you, and now we're back on doing partner workout challenges. It's crazy.
Going to a world championship.
Going to the World Championship. That's
Let's
right.
go.
It is a full circle. That was almost a year and a half ago, year and 2 or 3 months.
Seriously, yeah. And I barely knew you when you came on for the first podcast. That
Not at
actually,
all.
that one did really, really well. A lot of
Yeah,
people really resonate with the story. A lot of people are familiar with, obviously, the movement you're a part of, which is so sick. But yeah, dude, it's exciting. We got a lot of good things going on. Fitness, business, everything, friendship, everything going on. But I think this will be a fun episode to talk about
for sure.
our recent success at Hyrox and that whole event, all the exciting things that kind of came from that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about it, and obviously it being our first one and something we were like, should we do it? Should we not? We saw it, and then we just jumped into it. We're like, let's just do something hard and see what happens. So
100%. Let's do it, man. I'm excited to kind of break it down, share more about just the race itself, kind of give a little recap, even an analysis of the actual race that we did, and talk about what we're going to be doing in the future. But before we even dive into that, I think it'd be helpful if we just kind of gently just explain what Hyrox is for anyone listening that may not be familiar with it.
yeah, for sure. I'll jump off and do that. So like Hyrox, when we first heard of Hyrox, it was through other athletes doing it, and we just kind of saw it on social media. And it's pretty brand new, but it's definitely new to America and is pretty big in Europe and Germany. And I'm pretty sure the owner and founder is German, and he kind of came up with the idea. And so it's big in Europe. It's coming to America now, I think, for like 1, 2, maybe 3 years it's been here. But it is basically a fitness race. So it's different than a CrossFit style because it is the exact same race every time you do it. But it's basically 5 miles that you're running. So it is endurance. It is a distance broken up by 8 exercises or 8 stations, which are 1,000 meters ski. It's a sled push, 275 pounds, sled pull, which is 165 pounds, burpee broad jumps, which that is 80 meters, 1,000 meter row, farmer's carries, which are holding 2 kettlebells, 53 pounds each. That's 200 meters. And then you got 100-meter lunges with a 45-pound sandbag on your back. And then 100 wall balls with a 13-pound ball. A lot there. So
That's a lot.
you're doing all those 8 stations, and then you're breaking it up with that 5 miles. So you're doing 0.6 station 1, 0.6 station 2, and so forth. So you're basically running 5 miles, but you're breaking it up with those 8 stations, which is epic and crazy to think about because you're like having to incorporate like distance. 5 miles is a decent distance to run at a fast pace, and then you're having to use your strength and power to like get through these movements as quick as possible because it is a race. And then so your legs are jello and you're just having to go run that 0.6 miles. So it was epic, a lot of fun. But it's a cool race and a cool challenge.
Yeah, dude, it's been really cool and interesting, at least from my perspective, to see how it's grown so much. I mean, obviously, I'll give Eric Hinman a shout out. Like he's someone that
Yeah,
crushes them. He actually kind of, I feel like, I don't know, you can add to this, but I think him and Michael doing the doubles and competing at such a high level and having so much success definitely motivated me or got me a little interested into the sport. Just because
for sure.
I respect how he trains and I love his ability to be fit and do so many different things from strength to endurance. But yeah, I think it's interesting for people that maybe haven't experienced the race themselves and are just looking at it from an outsider's view. I think it's hard to understand how important the running is to it because
Yeah.
you see a lot of the clips or the videos and people are doing the workouts, but it really is half running and half like working out. And the running is a big piece of it.
Yeah. I mean, when you break it down, the goal would be to, hit that sub hour or hit that hour mark is to really split it in half. And I mean, that's exactly what it is. Half running, half working out or resistance, if you would. So it's something that you overlook because you see the layout and they don't really tell you that it's a full 5 miles just in the description. So you're seeing 0.6 miles and you're like, oh, that's nothing. I got 0.6 miles in me. And then that builds up over time and you're running 5 miles. And to me personally, one of the more difficult things is running 5 miles straight, like I'm gonna go outside and run 5 miles, is totally different than breaking 5 miles up with zero point 0.6, even if you weren't doing I guess that hard of a resistance activity or the station. To me personally, I think when you get in the zone of running, you get in that little runner's high and you're like, I'm chilling step after step, and you got a nice little cruise on you. But when you break it down to zero point 0.6 and then like take a break or walk or slow jog, it's a lot harder to get going again. And that was something that was different to me. I just thought like, I just need to be able to run 5 miles, which personally, I don't think that was the best way to look at it. It was like, I need to hit zero point 0.6 miles, quick little sprint, and be able to do other things. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. It's definitely different than just going out and, lacing up your shoes and going for a run. It's
Yeah.
it's a lot harder than that. And I think when you add the whole element of pushing a heavy sled
Yeah.
or doing lunges or something that's quad dominant that just absolutely fatigues your legs, and then making that transition to that 0.6 run, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. And I think that's what like kind of made it so attractive to both of us, especially me, because my background has always been in the weight room, but is growing up was always soccer, more endurance sport, more endurance athlete. Not running marathons or anything like that, but in games I would run between 7 and 9 miles every game. That was twice a week, and then you had an hour and a half, 2 hour practice, so you're running maybe 5 to 7 miles during the practices. So I'm putting 30 to 50 miles a week when I was training, and that was my whole life. I played soccer and only soccer. So, but I went to school for exercise science. So I love working out. My dad got me in it early. So fitness and like lifting weights and resistance, but also the sport itself were just like it just really attracted me because I loved pushing myself on a run till I was about to throw up or pass out. And I love doing that in the gym where like, if you know me or follow me on Instagram or work out with me before, I can't just sit there and like do a typical 3x12, like, or a 4x12 or whatever. It just isn't in my nature. Like if I'm going to do like bench press, I'm going to like be doing jump rope supersetting with it or something, abs with it, just
Yeah.
to get my body moving. Cause that's just the way I work. And there's no dist or any other way. That's just the way like I grew up doing it. And I think that's the way my body's kind of built just from playing soccer. So when you brought it up to me or we saw it and we started talking about it, I was like, bro, this does not like, I love the layout and I don't think it fits me any better. Like it fits my body type and the way I like to work out and train perfectly. And that's why I was obsessed with like, oh, let's just kill it.
Yeah, dude. No, I agree. And I'm glad you touched on that because obviously I think we both appreciate and respect the sport itself. But
Yeah.
to your point, like the style of training that it requires fits perfectly with our lifestyles and the way we enjoy training. Just because you get to do everything, you get to lift heavy, you get to do strength work, you get to have the power, you have to have the endurance, you have to be fast while you're running, you have to have the speed. And then obviously to crush the burpees and to do all those different workouts, you have to be pretty fit. So it really is a nice way if you're looking someone that's trying to figure out what you want to do next and you want to be just a well-rounded athlete that's versatile to be able to do kind of whatever. This is a really cool way to train that will allow you to kind of live that lifestyle and do that.
Oh, for sure. And that's something that, it's nothing bad about any of the other way, like the way people train. There's nothing bad about that. But this was just something that you get to do a little bit of everything. You got to be able to push a 300-pound sled and then immediately go run. You got to be able to do burpee broad jumps, which is a very, athletic movement. And then finish that where your heart rate's pumping like crazy and go run basically a 0.6 sprint. So yeah, if you're looking to get into something where you just have to incorporate everything, and that's what I love about it, then this is the perfect race to start doing or training like, or even if you're not going to compete in one, just train like it and mimic it. So
yeah, that's good. And I would say obviously it's very different from CrossFit. There are similarities, but the aspect that I do enjoy is it's constantly different. Like you can mix and match these exercises in different formats. You can add in the run. You can do a day where maybe you don't run, but you're focusing more on the cardio machines, the ski and the row.
yeah.
But that to me was really nice because it wasn't doing the same exact thing every single day. You could mix it up and have fun with it and be creative. And that was good for me because I don't know, I can't do the same thing every single day, like, certain,
Yeah.
but I enjoy that element too.
Another point that I loved about it is the cardio machines. That was something that like was really cool to me. It wasn't just all resistance in the form of weights or a sled push or sled pull. Like you had 1,000 meters on a skier or 1,000 meters on a row, you had to like just pump it. That was as fast as you could do it, as hard as you could do it, and then get off and run. And I think that's something cool now that I feel like cardio machines are just getting more and more relevant. Like the calorie bike, you got the skier, and then you got row, and it's just they're so fun just to kill yourself on and like push your limits. And I really enjoyed having them in a race where you're having to click in and then just pull as fast as you can, which I've never done a single race that's like that. And honestly, like coming back to the beginning, this is the first race I've ever done other than like, a 5K or something, just a run race.
Yeah.
So that was like epic in itself. It was just experiencing that whole thing, which I guess we can kind of jump into just to the experience of all of it. Now that we kind of talked about Hyrox, but that was like the race itself, which I guess some people for marathons and stuff get amped up just because there's so many people and it's kind of electric. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's like has a little bit of anxiety or butterflies going on. And so there's just the feeling of it is so hype in a race. And that's something I've never experienced, or at least for a long time now. And that was really, really cool. The atmosphere there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's something that Hyrox specifically has done a really good job of making them different. Obviously, the race itself is different, but the atmosphere and the environment that they produce is very different than a traditional race, with it being inside, typically, with there being a DJ, with there being lights, with there being this high energy community. I think they do a good job of separating themselves in that way, and it does make for a really interesting experience.
Yeah. And they also do a very good job of like their motto is for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's, there are heavy weights to this, for sure. And you need to like be able to push some weight and have resistance training in your training. But like it is something that you can get through. And that's something really cool they build as a community. You can go in and just fight through it and get through it. And your goal is just to finish. And then you have your top athletes that are going like, yo, I'm trying to go till I can't go anymore. As fast as possible. And that's something they do like really great. They've built a community of, top athletes that want to go hard and people that are still going hard, but their goal is just, I just want to finish it and get it through it and push my body. So
that's facts.
Something they do very well.
That was definitely cool to see. Just kind of a nice, diverse group of people that were attempting to, complete the race. And a lot of people completed it, like you said, from all kind of fitness levels. And it's just cool to see that energy. Yeah. From everyone really that was there, whether you were competing to win or competing to finish or just competing to have fun with a friend or something. Like it was cool to see all those people succeed in that way.
Yeah. And I so we don't beat a dead horse here, just blowing Hyrox up before we get into it. But the doubles was like the fact that we were able to do doubles.
Yeah.
I'm not fully into the fitness race world yet. Like I've now kind of leaned into it. So I'm seeing more opportunities in different races that are somewhat similar, but the fact that we were able to do doubles together and like tag team it and build that bond. And then you saw other people doing it. There was people, wives and husbands doing it, and because it was a co-ed. And so that was really fun and really cool that I got to experience. And I also watch other people. Was like, you weren't just battling yourself. You had someone right behind you pushing you that you were fighting for, and trying to, I guess, represent them and not let them down at the same time. So just like a team aspect of going to play basketball, soccer, football, you got your homies next to you and you're like, yo, this is us against the world, like basically. Right. So that was really fun to experience and also get to watch people doing that and fighting for each other. It's just the atmosphere is just electric with all of those, points into it.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you brought that point up because obviously with both of our backgrounds being former Division I athletes, like that was one piece. I think that's what I've missed most. I've missed two things about college sports. One is just the teammates, the experiences, the travel, going to games. That part I've definitely missed, the relationship side of it. But then just pure competition and like doing it with someone. I never played individual sports. I mean, I ran track my senior year, but even then we had like a little distance team, like we worked together, but like this kind of brought me back to that mindset of like, dude, let's train for this. Let's compete. Let's prep for this. And then let's go into it, attack the game day. And like, it was a really cool feeling to obviously do that with you. And yeah, I think for anyone else that has like a friend or someone they're trying to, strengthen their relationship with, or maybe it's business, maybe it's just a friendship, whatever, it's a really cool opportunity for you guys to grow in a different way than you would otherwise if you didn't do something like this.
Facts, big facts.
Let's yeah, I want to talk more about the experience of the race and break that down. But before that, let's touch on the training and the prep because I think that's important. Also, I think people will find that interesting if we kind of
Yep.
explain some of the things we did because our training looked similar in a lot of ways, but also very different. You guys were in Hawaii for like 3 months. So
Yeah.
you jump in first and then I can kind of touch on, some of the things I worked on, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
So like I said earlier, I think for me it's always kind of been this style that I've kind of like trained like once I got out of college and started going more into just the fitness world and just working out to, just become my best self with no end goal being like have a game this weekend. And so it was just me against myself. So working out, and I just love the intensity aspect. I love pushing myself to the limit, and that's just some people would say that is crazy and think I'm psycho, but if I'm not about to pass out or throw up in a workout, it doesn't feel like it's finished yet. And that's just the way I do it. So that's just kind of how I've trained once I got out of college and playing, Division I soccer and stuff. And so I think my training's always kind of been around it. But once we got a little bit closer and like actually signed up, it was like, there's specific things that I have to, dial in on to be the best on race day. It did look really different because we were in Hawaii for 3 months. So it was a little more difficult, and this is no excuse whatsoever because there's no excuses. You show up on race day, and that's how you race and what you finish with. But it was a little bit more difficult being in Hawaii. Shout out Dbach Fitness. He really we found a local gym there and an awesome community and environment. If you're ever in Hawaii on the North Shore, Dbach Fitness, check them out. But we found him, so he was really able to help kind of my I guess my visual on the race, but also just hit some dope workouts, some very intense workouts. And his classes are just nonstop, go heavy weights until you can't go anymore. So that was huge. But some of the strength aspect was the strength aspect was really a lot harder to find because I didn't have a traditional gym or just like traditional really squat rack and all that kind of stuff. And what I could find wasn't like exactly what the race I guess called for. I'd never pushed a sled until the race. I'd never pulled a sled before the race. I never had the farmer's carries were always either way too heavy, so I was having to do shorter distance, or it was too light. So there's a lot of things the sandbag never had. So there's a lot of things that I didn't have access to that going into the worlds and going into if we'll jump forward, but we'll probably be doing another one before Worlds just to kind of prep. But going into both of those, I think having the equipment, we will be way better prepared on my side. I will be personally. So to wrap it up, the training was difficult, but I was able to keep the intensity. And then once I got back to Florida, I was able to kind of dial in on very specific things like lunges or something. Like we were training a little bit heavier than what they called for just to knock that out. I got access to a rower again. I was able to kind of mimic a ski because I didn't have a ski machine at the time. And so I guess the training in itself was harder, but the type of training I was doing was more like it was in Hawaii, it was just basically intense classes, to be honest with you. Intense classes, and then I would kind of get a strength day, maybe 1 or 2 weeks I could find a gym or like maybe somewhere to squat or something like that. Then when I got back to Florida, I was able to actually dial in, and I was hitting more for that it was really only a week I was able to train here before we went to LA. Was more, I guess, get your strength in, build up that strength, get a metabolic conditioning in, which would be like an AMRAP, EMOM, something like that, and then hit a little accessory work, which has kind of been, shout out Matt Fraser, kind of CrossFit world I've been kind of diving into to train, to build up, strength, also build up the cardiovascular system, be able to run endurance and hard, like get your body used to jumping off a rower, jumping off a assault bike, and immediately going to do squats or immediately doing shoulder press or burpees or something that your body does not want to do whatsoever. You got to get your body used to doing that. So I was able to do that back in Florida. And then the accessory work is just building a little bit of accessory work. So like when you're doing a Metcon and doing pull-ups and stuff, you're not really worried about your form. You're just trying to do as many pull-ups or burpees. You're not really worried about using your chest or your triceps. You're just going ground up. And so the accessory work plays in nicely because you're able to do like pull-ups, banded pull-ups, whatever it is, and really focus on the muscles. You're able to do push-ups and tricep pull-downs and stuff like that, and actually focus on the muscles and not try to go as fast as possible. So I would say the perfect world, you have your strength, you have your metabolic conditioning, and then you have your accessory work, which I've found to work amazing for me, which is what I did before I left for Hawaii. So I think I built a nice foundation. And then Hawaii was just trying to get the most out of every single thing before the race. For you, I know it was a lot different, able to dive a little more deeper, but that's
Yeah.
what I had to kind of deal with in the circumstances I was in.
Yeah. You obviously did a good job. I mean, yeah, it's maybe not the most ideal situation in Hawaii, but I do think, yeah, shout out D-Bach. Those classes definitely will get you
Yeah,
fit.
Doug
Those are
witnessed
unreal.
it. Yeah.
They're unreal. But no, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think for me personally, it was a little different. I spent more time. I did travel a good amount, but they were shorter trips, which
Yeah.
I guess I'll touch on that first. Like when you do travel, the cool thing about Hyrox is maybe you don't have access to everything on these short trips when you're moving around, going places, but you can probably do something, whether it's focused more on the running aspect, body weight. There's still a lot of awesome body weight workouts you can do to prep for
Yep.
this. While you do have to push the sled and pull the sled and do these things, getting your just body stronger can still be a really good way to kind of start to build your foundation to compete in this event. So, there's a lot of awesome workouts that are free on the Hyrox accounts you guys can check out. I certainly did a lot of those when I was traveling, but if you can, I highly suggest you try to figure out some way to simulate the actual race or at least parts of it before race day. This was something I was able to do, fortunately, when I would go back to Western Carolina to visit with Kate, to visit with the basketball team when I was spending time
Yep.
in the area. I was thankful that the strength coach allowed me to kind of use the resources there so I'd pull everything out on the football field and I would simulate. I would line it up. I'd have the sled, I'd have the dumbbells for the farmer's carries. I would have some sort of dumbbell for the sandbag simulation, and then I would run around the field between. And so that prep, I do think, gave me more confidence going into the race, just knowing that I'd simulated something that was very similar to what I was going to experience on race day. So if you're listening
Yeah.
and you have access to some way to just kind of put it all together, I highly suggest that you try to do that.
Yeah. At least a couple of times before the race. I mean, it is brutal. And so when you do it, when you simulate it and stuff, you're not going to feel the best afterwards. Because when we raced on race day, I'm still kind of feeling it. Yesterday was the last little bit, today a little bit. So at least getting, 1, 2, 3 times simulating it is the full race is definitely going to help just to like fully understand what it's going to take and what kind of like your body's going to break down and not want to do things and not really want to, the wall ball is not really going to want to do the wall balls after just running 5 miles. And then you're going to have to finish with 100 wall balls. So
Facts.
yeah, I think that was huge for you to be able to do that because you kind of knew and able to kind of give pointers to me along the way. Even when training, it was like, "Yo, this is tough. We need to work on this," or
Yeah.
"This was pretty easy. I think we're going to be all right with this." And then also, you having access to doing it like that, you were able to say, "Hey, I feel pretty strong in the sled push." And I feel pretty strong on the sled pull. So if you knock out this, I'll knock out that, or 70-30 or whatever we ended up doing on race day. It got hectic, but I think that was huge having you be able to do it. And now that I'm back before Worlds and stuff, I'll be able to actually do that as well. And so that would be, yeah, a big recommendation to anyone listening is to lay it all out and just run it. Just let it go.
I agree. And I think too, this was something I feel like we did a better job of, like as we approached the race, but really make sure you simulate the transition between the workout and the running. It's cool to do them separately sometimes, but like you really do need to let your body practice like running under fatigue. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you could do, whether it's you run 0.6, you do air squats, you run 0.6, you do burpees. Like there's
Yeah.
workouts they've designed, but that's crucial to actually like let your body feel that experience and train that way. Because I feel like some people might go into this and be like, I'm going to focus on a gym session and do that part. And then I'm going to go for a run later in the day.
Yeah.
And you can totally do that, but I would also recommend, in addition to that, trying to mix them because the race is designed where they're mixed together. It's not this, then that. It's there together.
Yeah. I think the people that know and have done it before understand that feeling of running any distance, really, even if it's a half a mile, even if it's 400 meters, 200 meters, and you're sprinting or running as fast as you can and then immediately dropping to do air squats or jump squats. think anyone that's ever done that knows that pain that comes along with your quads. And now imagine that over and over and over again for 8 stations. That's basically what they're mimicking. I mean, at the point of the farmer's carries, you wouldn't even think your legs, the way you're having to run and obviously get through that 200 meters as fast as possible. When you let go of the dumbbells, your legs are tired somehow from running with that weight. And so yeah, that definitely needs to be you. And I think that's something Eric Hemming kind of gave us that little tip on, or maybe in a video of his or something.
Yeah.
Was you have to get your body and your legs used to that fatigue and being able to push through it and just get your body to recognize like, hey, I'm okay and I can still keep going.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I guess the last thing I would touch on with in terms of prep for anyone that is considering doing a doubles version of this is the strategy that goes into working with another person to complete this event. This is something that you have to think about. And, we probably didn't do it perfectly, but we definitely tried to put some thought into that strategy. And I think spending time together, training together is obviously very helpful, but also trying to have some sort of plan as you go into the race. Obviously things will change. It gets hectic, it gets crazy. That's fine.
Yeah.
But at least coming together to try to create some sort of plan. And I feel like we did that. But obviously there's learnings every time you do something. So
yeah, there's definitely something we could do that a little bit better. And we had our plan, and for the most part, I think it kind of went to plan. But on race day and game day, things go sideways, or someone's feeling better than the other, and so we did audible with certain things like that. But with picking your partner, if you're gonna, I guess if you're doing it singles, you have to do it all. But when picking a partner, like the way we had it, Doug's 6'5", 6'4",
6'4",
and I'm 5'10", so our gap was crazy different, and so there was things that favored differently to each other. So that was something we kept in mind and did accordingly of the day of like who was going to start this one, who was going to finish this one, based on like burpees were coming up next, and we'll get into it. But burpees I love burpees, so I knew like I wanted to be rested to be able to knock it out as many burpees as possible. So it was like trying to say, Doug, you start this, so I finish this and go into that. So it does get a little tricky, but we had it mapped out, and then we were like, let's just run and see what we feel like, and we'll kind of talk to each other and base everything off how we're feeling.
100%. And that's the fun part. I think that's the place where no matter how fit you are, no matter how much you prepare physically for this, that element of the doubles division is really cool to see how people break it up. What's their strategy?
Yeah.
Are they splitting it evenly in half? Is someone taking more? Are they, breaking it up into smaller chunks and just trying to stay with a higher intensity, but have to suffer on that transition cost of the time it takes to, swap out? Like those are the things I think will be interesting to see how, as the sport goes on, how people continue to play with that element of it.
Yeah. And also how we play with it and how we kind of set our training, because to be honest, there were people that were really, really fast running that were destroying it, booking it, passing us. And then they'd get to the stations and maybe didn't have enough power, strength, energy in the tank, whatever it was. They kind of slowed down on the stations, which we would pass, and then they would come running again. And then it came down to the finish like, yo, it's just what we got left in the tank. But yeah, people do differently. Some people can run, a 5-minute pace, 5.5, 6-minute pace in the runs, but can't, push all the way through the lunges without their legs dying because they maybe don't have enough strength in it. So that is the fun part. And it's like, how well-rounded can you get just to go and be able to do it all? And that's what we kind of got obsessed with, of like, let's be the strongest we can in every single aspect of this race.
100%. No, it's good. I thought we went in prepared, and it's never going to go perfectly, but I think you have to put yourself in a position to go in with some level of confidence. And I feel like overall we did that. Maybe there were things we could have done better, but I think overall we did that.
I think one last thing before we jump into like breaking down that race for the training side, don't underestimate the run. I think I just make that, if anyone's going to do it, or if anyone's interested in it, or just want to know like what it was like actually to train. I think that's one thing. If I had to go back and I guess redo that first one, even though we did really well and we qualified going forward now, don't overlook the run. Even though I thought I was fit enough for that run, I still was like, I could have ran faster. I could have pushed it a little bit more. I could have been more like fit. And I worried about more of the events and less of the run. And I think that run is really sneaky because you just think like, oh, it's just 0.6 and then I'll take a breather. You never really taking a breather.
Yeah,
You're
I know.
just so one thing you have to be able to run and you got to be able to book it to put up some times.
Let's go. No, that's facts. We take the trip out to LA. We actually stayed in Newport Beach, which was sick. That was actually my first time
Yeah.
spending time there, which was good recommendation from you and Brinley to stay on there. But let's talk about that kind of leading up to the race day, some things we did to prepare for it, like right and during that trip, and then obviously let's step into talking about the race.
Yeah. Um, let's get it. So I think we left. So the race was on Saturday, the 10th.
Yep.
We booked it out there on the 8th. Got there eighth night, which was hectic in itself. We got locked out of the Airbnb and our flights all came in late, so we had a little rough time on the 8th. But we got there on the 8th just to have, a day of one to hang out, one to chill, one just to have a good time in Newport and get ready for the race, get some good food, just make sure our body was kind of feeling good. If we would have flown in the 9th and that would have happened that night and then woke up, we would have been done for. So we flew in the 8th, chilling the night, ate some good food, got our body recovered, did a shakeout that morning, right? Just really easy walk, slight jog. We went and did a little grounding handstand stuff that night. And then the 10th was that morning and we booked it up to LA, which was kind of a trip. We were far away, like 50 minutes, I believe, 50 minutes to an hour. So we had to wake up pretty early. But before the trip, I think we had a few shakeout days, few long run days, few little 3 milers. I would say maybe 3 days, which I probably could have used another one, to be honest, just how hard I was trying to train in that short window I had. But I think we took about 2 or 3 days of the strength off the table. It wasn't any heavy lifting. We went a little bit longer runs just to get the heart rate, the cardiovascular system, blood flowing. And then that 2 days before, we did a little just high intensity EMOM. And then I was big. I'm blessed and grateful to be able to have a sauna and ice plunge. So I was hitting a lot of recovery sessions two times a day, just making sure my body was feeling good. But then we went out on the 8th and kind of just shook it out. Really just getting the nerves out, making sure the body felt good before that morning.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely want to personally like figure out how to. That's hard. Like when I ran my marathon last December, I was following a program that I wasn't self-programming. I wasn't doing this myself. Like I was
Yeah.
following something, and these guys that write these programs, it was actually Nick Barris, and he has a taper built in to prepare you to run fast on race days. So as you hit a point in your training where it'll start to get easier because your body has to recover to prep you for that day. Well, this
Yeah.
was totally different because I would do the workouts that were on the Instagram and like you and I would send each other stuff and we'd look at Matt Fraser stuff and different people, but like we weren't following like a strict rigid plan that had a period built in to taper and prepare us for the race. And so that
Yeah.
was tough. I think you did a really good job of kind of setting up something good. I did a workout though the weekend before and I totally overprogrammed like lunges. And I remember being sore till like Wednesday, Thursday-ish in the morning of
Yeah.
when we flew out. And I was like, man, this is not good. But the shakeout helps and the recovery sessions definitely help. But that's
Yeah.
something you have to kind of figure out.
Yeah. Which I think it's like, I know we kind of beat ourselves up about that and try to figure out the perfect plan. But I think with running in marathons, I'm not saying that's easy whatsoever, but it's a little bit easier, I think, to kind of like taper and figure that one out.
For
Just
sure.
because it is mostly your legs and you're just running a long distance and you're just like marathons are crazy hard. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying like it's you're doing one thing. And so it's kind of easier to like, let's taper off, let's fuel up, let's get ready. Um, this is like a whole different ball game in my head because there's so many different aspects to it. You got to still be able to run, but you also still can't like taper 2 weeks off. Like, when you start running a marathon, I believe it's somewhere around 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
Somewhere around there. And because then your strength, like because you got to be able to still have the strength to push the sled and the pull and stuff like that. And it is a lot shorter of a race than a marathon as well. So you're only running 5 miles and it's only an hour. Hopefully an hour is what you're pushing for, somewhere around there, compared to a marathon or something that you're out there for sub 3 or a little over 3 hours, way long endurance and time frame. So it's different, man. It's hard. And that's the beauty of, I think, these types of races. Like there's no right or wrong way. In my head, it's kind of like figuring out till your body feels good till you need to pull off, and then at least giving yourself, a 3, 4, 5 day window of a lot lighter than what you were doing, but still trying to keep that heart rate pretty high. Like still keep your body used to those AMRAPs, those EMOMs, because you got to still have the stress that you're used to. So
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a good way to put it. And it's just a different event. That it's like, I think as time goes on, people will try to come up with tactics and little, recovery tips and stuff. But overall, yeah, I think we did that pretty solid.
Yeah, I would say so. There's definitely things we could have worked on and done better, which we'll do in the next few. And I think that's also the beauty of it, experiencing it and doing more than one, that you'll get better and realize what you felt like race day and what you could have done the day before, 2 days before, 3 days before, whatever it is.
Yep, I agree, man. Let's dive into the race itself, because obviously we went into this knowing, well, not fully knowing, but thinking that we had this plan and we were going to prepare for it, and we did all this great work and prep work. But when you get into the race, it's live. Like there's nothing else you can do. There's no more work you can do. Like you have the work that you've done up to this point, and now you're putting it to use. Let's just kind of dive into kind of what that experience was like. What were maybe some of the things that we were expecting? What are some of the things that we didn't expect that we had to kind of encounter, and just kind of start there?
Cool. You wanna try to run through the race like rapid fire? We're kind of get it done.
Yeah, let's do it.
So yeah, we obviously get there. So people everywhere. The environment's crazy. The community's crazy. You're having to sign in, and then you're just talking, dapping up, but then you hit yourself that I'm starting in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So I need to get warmed up. They have a little warm up section over there. So you're just trying to figure out. They have the weights over there. So like this is the first time you'll be grabbing the legit kettlebells, the legit sandbags, pushing the legit weight of a sled that's going to be out there. And so I think that was really cool on their part. You were able to you were able to use the skier, use the rower, like everything that was going to be there, you were able to have it in this little warm-up section. So we hit that pretty hard, got a nice little sweat on. You were very used to that basketball air in there, the indoor air. It was crispy. Yeah. It was burning my throat, but it was it was nice to have that warm up to get a sweat on. And then you just line up. They run you through like some little cool breathing. You watch a video, get amped up, and it's just go time. And you're able to like get yourself as prepared as possible. But then I don't care who you are, what event you're doing, what race you are, when people are counting down and you're ready to start running, it is the craziest feeling ever. Before a game, before a race, before anything, it's just like, no matter how intense, no matter how professional the thing is, it is one of the best feelings ever, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, two things I'll add on the warm-up side, like that little section they created was really cool to give you kind of that experience of just like practicing with the stuff before you got going. But two things I observed: one, it was cold in there. Like it was a really cold room. And I guess it's probably pretty common in most convention centers, but obviously we've only done this one, so I can't compare it to others, but you really got to make sure you get warmed up. You don't want to start this intense of an event with your body being cold. And then the second part to that is figuring out a way to, like, we tried to kind of break a gentle sweat, but start to get that heart rate to go up a little bit, because if you go from 0 to 100, it's just not going to work out for you. Your body's going to freak out. And so, yeah, really, if it is cold, if you do one, make sure you get a good warm up in, because that's something you get excited. There's nerves, there's energy in the room. You might, just forget to do that. So that's something you should definitely think about.
Yeah. I think going forward and just kind of jump into things that we do different. I think I would have got a little bit better warm up in, more of a sweat, just like put my body like in a little more stress, under a little more stress before I just started running. But also to counter that, the run is helpful that you're able to start with running, because I think that's one of the easiest ways to kind of get warmed up and like get your blood flow going and release all that nerves. And then you're just into it. So I did like having that run first. But so we started at the finish line, and they just, you have an anklet on and you cross that starting line, and they clock you in your time, and you're just off and running. You got three laps, which to all any Georgia State people out there listening, soccer fitness test for 3-lappers. That was like, we've thrown up many times. That was every year, every preseason was 3-lappers was our fitness test. So it was brought back old memories, but also like I can get used to this. But yeah, so you run, you have to run 3 laps, which will hit that 0.6. And to be honest, like the layout is really cool, but it also like for your very first time, it is a lot to take in. To be
Yeah.
honest, like they
It is.
make it very easy and they make it doable 100%. There's no confusion, but just running into a race like that, obviously being dead after each run, and like there's so many things to focus on that it is kind of a mental battle a little bit, especially if you're not used to the Hyrox race. So you run those 3 laps, you go, there's an in, like an into the station and out to the station section. So you're running, you go through the in, and then they have it numbered on the big blow ups. You're at zone number 1, which would be the skier. So you run that 3 laps into the skier, and you can jump on the skier if you want.
Yeah.
We
No, you definitely hit it on the head, go, because that was kind of a trippy part, just like taking it in, trying to understand the layout. But at the same time, you got to think we started our race at 8:20. So the men's doubles division was the first thing of the day, and there was 3 heats. And so the first group started at 8 o'clock on the dot. Then another group rolled out at 8:10, and then we rolled out at 8:20. And so that was something to me that I was a little nervous about starting the race, knowing that there's already going to be people like flying around. So that's something you're going to have to definitely deal with. But yeah, we got to
Yeah.
the ski, and honestly, I thought the ski went really well. I think we went into it with a plan and an approach that we were going to be a little bit more conservative at the beginning to try to save and be able to have a bigger push at the end, which I think definitely was a good idea. I think that was definitely the right thing to do. I think we could have gone a little faster out of the gate. But at the same time, you got to be very, very careful playing with that. If you've never done it before, I would err
Yeah.
on the side of being safer.
Especially being our first one, that was
Yeah.
that we had no idea what you were going to feel like at the end. We didn't know if it was going to be you were going to be cashed or if it was going to be like we just had no idea how the race was going to go. So we aired on the safer side, like you said, and then we were going to plan on gearing up if we needed to and what everything looked like towards the end.
And I think that's something you personally did a really good job of helping me pace better, because that's something I do not do well. I don't pace well when I
Yeah.
run. I don't pace well when I work out. I just don't pace because I like to just go all out. But you definitely, a mature person would pace it properly, and I did get excited. But no, you did a good job of helping us stay calm, but still push the pace, but do it just in a smart way.
Yeah. And I think in my head, the reason that was is one, because I was just kind of unfamiliar with the race because I hadn't really mimicked it. Like we said earlier, like I wasn't able to simulate that and see what my body was going to feel like. And I wasn't able to put all those runs and all those exercises together. I was able to do something in my gym, my garage gym that I could, like best as I could, but I wasn't able to. So it's almost out of like, I know I can push myself when I need to push, but I also don't, I'm unaware of what's going on here. I've never
Yeah.
been able to fully go through it. So let's pull back a little bit. And to me, also the first, those, once you get after the sled push and sled pull, to me is like, you're downhill. You're not really downhill, but you're downhill.
Yeah,
It's like once you get over those big weights, then it's basically up to you and like how much pain can you take? How much can you push yourself and just keep going? And that's kind of the way my head looked at it. Cause once I kind of like held that pace and was like kept us on that pace, then it was like Doug was let loose. It was we were just
yeah,
running and booking it after we got through those probably 3 stations, I would say, ski, sled push, and sled pull. It was like, yo, we're feeling good downhill. Let's just keep pushing ourselves till we can't go anymore.
for sure. No doubt. Yeah, I thought the sled was smooth. Excuse me,
Yeah.
the ski was very smooth, and then you hit the
We
sled.
also, if anyone was wondering, we did break that down in four rounds of 25. I'm pretty sure.
Yep,
Sometimes when you're pulling it and stuff, one's feeling
250.
it, one's looking good. We'll go a little bit higher than 250. And also, if you get to 250 and row another 1 or 2 times, when I jumped on after Doug's was that I was already at like 280. And so then it was just kind of like really just row till you like not couldn't row anymore, just when your pace was slowing down and then the other would jump down, especially with a ski because you were just grabbing handles and pulling.
Yep.
That's something we kind of like looked at before too. It was like the row is a little more difficult to sit down, clip in, and then also when your legs are done, when you're clipping out and trying to stand up, it's not the most like smooth thing. And so we were like, let's split the 250, hit that hard, hit it conservative, but like just keep that nice pace because you're just walking in, grabbing the things and pulling down. So we split that 4 ways, somewhere around 250, that was our plan. It could have been same or a little bit less or a little bit more. And then we ran and we pulled into the sled push. For me, I'd never pushed that sled weight in over. I don't know if I've ever pushed that specific weight. The last time I pushed a sled was my junior year in college, and so that was I was unaware of that, and I was like 275 seems a lot. I was able to try it in warm ups, and I was like, okay, I got this. So we split that even as well. So that was 4 lanes. I believe that was 100 meters.
It was 50, so it's 12 and a half meters
50,
down.
12. Yeah.
Yep. So 4 rips.
12 and a half down, 4 ways. And so that I felt pretty good, a lot better than I thought I was in that event. Now, when I finished it and had to start running, it wasn't as easy as I thought once I had to finish it and just start booking a 0.6 run.
Yeah. And it's cool to see the layout of the race. Like the guy, I'll give him, credit, who designed this Hyrox race. You go in, you start the run, like Lucas said, like you're warming up, you're getting your body ready. And then the ski is not bad. The ski is pretty easy, especially if you go out calm and you just guys go back and forth. But when you hit the sled, that's like the wake up call to see if you're actually strong enough to really compete and put down a good time. Because people that come into this with just a really strong endurance background are going to have a problem with the sled. But obviously, if you're a well-rounded athlete, like it's something it's definitely manageable, but you do have to be able to attack it, which I felt like the sled was actually, one of our stronger things that we did pretty well.
Yeah. And the thing is, you got to be able to do it with pace. Like, it's that game of like, yes, the weight is bearable and then you can push it, but it's like, how fast do you want to move it? Like, how are your steps? Are they strides? Are they little steps? And so that's where you just got to attack the thing and like get after it, and then you swap, get after it, swap. So that was pretty simple. And now it comes down to like, we split that 4 ways. And so Doug started it, right? Yes. And so I finished it. And so like that finish was really hard. And then so like Doug's got a little bit of, not much time, but a little bit of breathing. His legs have able to relax a little bit. And so when we started running, it was like, it's hard to like, this is the fun part in all of it and doing the doubles is because like Doug's ready to go. And I'm like, yo, I need to like, let me get my heart rate down and my muscles. So we're trying to like play a game of Doug's running a little bit. I'm just trying to like, he's pulling me that right then. And I'm trying to fight with him to keep up with him. So he's almost in a way pushing me to get myself back, but I'm also like pulling him like, yo, I need to like settle down a little bit. And I think that is one of the hardest parts about the race is your heart rate under fatigue and stress is when you get done with these events and you're the last person to go, or if you're doing singles and you're just finishing one of the stations, is to like how fast you can get your heart rate down so you can pick up the run. Because once I got done with the sled, I was like, felt like I was carrying bricks, and I was like, yo, my freaking heart is beating, and now I'm gotta catch Doug, who's running, and we're only 2 stations in. So that was a big like punch in the face to me. It was like, okay, we're zip time, like tying the shoes up. We're about to really do this thing. That's like definitely eye opener station to like start the race.
No doubt. And then you go right into the sled pull, which obviously is, for most people, it's probably not the easiest one. You definitely have to be able to be strong enough to pull it, but I love the sled pull. I thought it was probably my favorite station.
Guys, Doug single-handedly destroyed the sled pull. So you're tied. If people don't know what we're talking about when we say sled pull, the rope is attached to the sled, I guess tied around it somewhere. Yep. And so the weight's on there and then the rope's tied to it. And so you're like in your little zone, a little box, and you're having to pull the sled, but with the rope. So you're just like hand, just pulling the sled into the zone. And then you run down to the other end and pull it back the other way. And that was easily like the fastest I've ever pulled in. It like sings anybody pull a sled. Doug was on a different level from that one. He took us home on that one. So that was big time. That's something I'm for sure putting at the top priority is to work on that, because it's also something I've never was able to mimic, and hard to even like wrap your head around just pulling a rope and pulling 170 pounds and doing it fast and then running. It was just hard to like, I don't know. That's something I definitely want to work on and try to simulate that activity.
Yeah, but thankfully for our sake and like our personal sake, like the way the race was laid out, I enjoyed the sled pull, but then right after the sled pull was the burpee broad jumps, which is your wheelhouse, you're a burpee
Yeah.
legend. And so it was nice to kind of have those back to back where I was able to take a little bit more of the sled pull, but then our game plan going into it was that you were going to obviously take more of the burpees. So that
Yeah.
was kind of a nice transition to give you hopefully a little bit more rest as you went into it to absolutely dominate, which you totally did.
Yeah.
And we felt like we were moving pretty quick on the burpees.
Yeah. No, I honestly, that was, yeah, us not knowing it, or we knew it, but like also didn't know how the sled pull was going to be such a thing that you were about to destroy. But it ended up working out perfect. And looking at it hindsight, it probably is the reason why I felt so good on the burpee broad jumps, was like, because I started those and just flew through them. And then you jumped in to finish them with some basketball freaking leaps across the line. Um, but no, that is probably why I went into it like, dang, I'm feeling good. That's probably why, like in hindsight. So yeah, that's a very good little mental note we'll keep.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then after those broad jumps, so that was 80 meters. So there was 2 lanes, so it was 40 meters. You turned the corner and did 40 meters back. We did those, and then we obviously then went into our run, that run was a little bit, even though the burpees felt really good, it was really hard. Again, because that heart rate is so high, you're kind of, burpees in themselves are kind of just like this dizzy workout. So we ran that, and then we had 1,000 meters on the road, concept two. For me, that was at the point when I was like, one of the exercises I knew once we got through that, like it was really, really go time.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wrapped my head around, like, I'm not going to destroy my legs, because row really does destroy my legs, which is something I'm going to be working on for sure. That I kind of took that one like, yo, let's hit it powerful, but hit it nice and easy. And it's also something you're top notch at rowing, which was nice because I just finished the burpees and everything. So then the row, you started those, hit a nice, I think like 300 meters on it. I think I hit another 300, 350, and then you finished her off and we were off and running.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah. So the row is the row. It's really just your traditional row, but it's 1,000 meters, and those go by really slow when you're fatigued.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to stay in a really state of mind where you're just like, don't think about it and you're just pulling, is what really it seemed like would work best in that moment. Um, and then after that row, we hit the farmer's carries, which is a lot of these next ones, which we'll kind of touch on after we go through this, and we'll kind of like go a little bit quicker here so we can talk about some of it. A lot of these came with a lot of learning experiences
Yeah.
and hiccups that these next few races will definitely 100% learn from. This was one of them. So you pick up the kettlebells in a little station, and then you just take off for Doug. Doug, we didn't really know. I don't know if we really watched. I don't know if we watched the Hyrox race, so we didn't really know exactly. You pick them up and what you do. We just knew you had to get through it. And so Doug said he saw the corner of his eye one dude running with them through the 200 meters. And so Doug was like, I'm just speed walking. So he gets there, grabs the dumbbells, and I never stopped running my pace from the run following Doug. And so whatever laps it was, he went till he couldn't, and then was just slinging and running around, dropped them, and then I finished those off. And then that is where it got tricky, because I guess we weren't really told, or maybe we didn't listen, to be honest. I have no idea. But when you get done with the events and the kettlebells and also the sandbag, you have to put them back in the station that you picked them up from, which for me, I saw a line. It was taped over. That was my finish line. I got there and sat them to the side and just was gone. I left them. And so the lady had to like stop us, say, like, hey, you have to put them back. So Doug had to go back and get them and then put them back in the station. So that was something, I don't know if you want to touch on that, but that was something, a lot of points or a lot of seconds could have been
Sure.
different.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely touch on it more, but I think throughout the race we had two or three, maybe even four of those moments where it's like little things that you don't really think about or you didn't necessarily plan for that we
Yeah.
we'll never miss that again. So those are cool ways to just kind of again refine, you know, the process and understand like what are the rules. And because yeah, again, we'd never done it, so we didn't know all those little details, but it is good to know it now. And then as we continue to compete, we'll have that stuff pretty nailed. And
Yeah. So then after that, farmer's carries, we had lunges. That was a 45-pound sandbag on the back. This was interesting as well because 100 meters, decent distance, and also the bag could never touch the ground. And
Yep.
so that was something we didn't know going into it, and we'd never really practiced lunges and like the swap. We just throw a barbell on our back and do lunges or whatever it was because it was 45 pounds. So that was something we learned right in warm-ups was like you can't touch, or I think the night before. And so warm-ups, we practiced like tossing the sandbag to each other, putting it on our back and stuff. For me, the lunges surprisingly were one of the easiest stations, which I don't know if the adrenaline was running at that point. I remember running right before the farmer's carries. I remember running and like having a little deep talk with myself, and because we could see the time so the time on they had a little time section, but that was the actual time of day. Like, so it was 8:30 or 8:40 or whatever it was. So it wasn't our clock running, it was just the time. And I knew we had started somewhere around 8:20. I knew the time was coming at like 8:40 or something. And so I knew we had like a 20-minute thing, or yeah, somewhere around whatever, 20-30 minute section left to get under break an hour. So I knew sub hour was our goal going into this. And so I remember having a little talk with myself. I remember getting like these chill bumps, and I was like, it's go time here. And so let's go. So I'm not sure if it was that or what it was, but the lunges was one of the easiest things. We knocked those out, I believe, even. It was four
Yep.
trips, 2 and 2. And then we just passed the sandbag, which was, different for sure, but we put it on our back, and then the other one to come behind us and kind of shoulder press it over to the back, which was weird and unique, but we were able to do it, which we didn't know before, but luckily we were able to kind of adapt and get that going.
Yeah, and I agree. When you get to that point in the race, you're like, dude, after this, I have one more run, and then I have 100 wall balls, and then I cross the finish line. And so mentally, it's like, man, I know your body's under a lot of pain and you're under a lot of stress, but you're so
Yeah.
close. It's just like now you can start to really empty the tank and like, send it. So that was I think part of that one where it's just like, man, this feels good. We're gonna push, but you're so close to finish line. You're like, I want to get there.
Yeah. Um, and then after those lunges, we took off running for our last run, and that's where it was a big push. I saw on the clock. I think we both knew we were somewhere close. We were going to do it.
Yeah.
We just had these last two exercises. It was like, can we get these done in a short amount of time? And we were lapping, and I was gassed. My quads were burning. That was obviously the hardest run. It was probably the fastest run we'd ran. But we knew all we had was one run and 100 wall balls. And so I remember getting to the wall balls, like literally almost throwing up. It was, my lungs were burning, and I was like, bro, you're gonna have to start the wall balls. And so that was nice. That was showing a little, like, I don't even know if we planned on that. It was just like feeling the race out. It was like Doug had a little more in the tank, and I was like, I can't start them. I need a breather.
Yeah.
So he jumped on those. And then we ended up knocking out the 100 wall balls, which again, a little hiccup. We didn't know in transition, we didn't know the ball had to touch the ground. So Doug threw it up, caught it, handed it to me to start going. And then, so that was already a rep that didn't count. And then we finished apparently at 99. We took off running for the finish line, had to come back. I came back and just literally slung the medicine ball off the the top, and then we took off. So that the wall balls weren't as bad as I thought. Again, I truly think it was adrenaline. At that point, their legs were fatigued for sure, but they weren't as bad. I just think you go numb at some point in that whole race. It's like it's just gonna happen. We just got to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. At that point, you're just like, I wanna get through this. I wanna cross that line and get excited. But no, man, it was a fun race. It was really good. I think Yeah, dude, it was the first one, not knowing what it was going to be like, and then getting through it. You're just like, man, we truly did this. And just to get through it, I know it's just like a workout, but when you push yourself that hard and you compete in that way and you try to win, like it is a really gratifying feeling when you cross that line, especially when you do it with a friend, with a partner, your teammate. So, man, it was
Yeah.
fun.
No, it was amazing. I'm so glad we did it. And to kind of, I guess, kind of touch on, the finishing time and all that and some of the questions we got asked. But one, we expected to do well. I'm not gonna lie. We came in knowing we were fit. We loved this kind of training. We'd worked our butts off. And so we came in knowing we were gonna do well. It's just figuring out, like, being our first one, was there gonna be hiccups, which there were. Um, could we adapt and put up a good time? And so our goal going into it for me personally was sub hour. I was like, that seemed like a decent time. We'd never done the race. We never done it fully, for sure. And we also, like, had only watched and seen other people, and we're like, okay, let's just sub hour. We'll push it in, but let's see if we can hit underneath an hour. And so that was our goal, which we hit. Super excited about that. We knew we were fit enough to do pretty well. And then so we ended up finishing with a 57:12. I remember walking on the stage and pointing at it because you didn't know if we hit sub hour, and pointing at it, and so we both freaked out. That was a pretty cool special moment, and the lights were all going off and stuff. But 57:12, which put us second overall in doubles in LA, and then first in our age group, which was super dope for our first one. Honestly, like, I don't think we really knew what to expect. We knew we wanted to go kill it. We knew, like, yeah, we said let's go win it. In my head, I was just like, I had no idea. It was just so many question marks through the whole race, through the whole event, through times, qualifications, all that. It was just like, let's just go give everything we got and we'll see what we finish like. In second and first in our age group and qualifying for Worlds was, I think, a huge success in our first one.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I'm super grateful and thankful for the way that we were able to perform and ultimately what we did. The one little thing that I wish you could get a better feel for, it's just there's so much chaos going. There's three heats. We get launched into like just a sea of other people already competing. Is I wish we could have towed up next to the guys that beat us, just because I
Yeah.
feel like we'd have. It's just a different mindset feeling when you're trying to pace versus when you're racing against someone that you're trying to beat. And so, yeah, so, congrats to those guys. No disrespect there. Obviously, they did a great time. They beat us by a minute, but I do think if you get to see that, I think that would definitely have, we'd have been a little faster. But no, man, for our first one, 57:12 was awesome. I think we were running like a 7:13-ish pace on the runs, which again, we can dive into some things here in a minute, but like that's probably a place we could have done a little better. But overall, I mean, that's still moving pretty quick considering,
Yeah.
you're breaking up with all that work.
Yeah. And that's something, if we had to, which we might get into, picking apart what we would want to do better or what we think we could do better. My number one would probably be the run.
Yeah.
Just the run section. A 7:13 is sick. It would be dope to be able to get underneath that 7 minute mark, and shave some 15 seconds a run, whereas the run section, that's a decent amount of time when you do it 8 times. So if we could get underneath that 7 mark, I think that changes our time tremendously, and then get stronger and faster on the other events, then you're looking at even better time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think another thing that we've both talked about, obviously, but for anyone listening, is like really perfecting the cardio machines, like obviously going into it
Yeah.
with a high level of fitness, but also a high level of technique. And that's where, I mean, I can certainly get more fit, but from a technique standpoint, form matters. Like even every stroke on the rower, every stroke on the ski, like if you can keep everything tight in line, like those little things will, as you're really trying to beat your record or win, like you gotta shave everything you can.
I think, yeah, I think the skier is where, it's just not an awkward movement, but it's just different than a lot of the other things you do. And unless you do it all the time or you have access to one like every single day or, a couple times a week, it is a weird movement. And that was something that I was lucky to have one at D-Box place, but we didn't really use it as much. I should have used it way more. And then getting into it, it's the first event and everything, but form really, really could change the game for a couple of seconds, because I remember reaching up a few times and catching it loose, and so I wasn't actually getting the full momentum of pulling it down. And that's definitely one of the machines that I would like to really perfect, because that's at the beginning. That sets the tone of the whole race. If you can sit with good form there and roll through it, you're looking pretty the rest of the race.
Yeah, dude, no, 100%. The unless you have anything else you want to touch on that respect, we should touch on a little bit of just like how we qualify for Worlds, what that was like, because we didn't know right then and there that we
Yeah,
qualified. I think that was a really cool part of it, just like earning it, but then not, yeah, it's just the suspense for those few days.
yeah. No, I think that's good. We can talk about that for sure. I don't think there's much. It's obviously just getting. I think if we had to just put like list them out, things that we would do better, or things we're going to work on, or what look hindsight what we could have done better. Again, I think it was the run. I think it was the cardio machine. Those are definitely the two things that you can improve on pretty easily. Like obviously with work, but those things are the easiest to improve on, to shave some seconds. That's even with doubles, the transitions between the row. There's just, once you get
Yeah.
done with the race and you start looking back, you go, man, there was so many times that like we just caught ourselves off guard, or like, yo, I didn't let them know when I was done hitting the lunges or wall balls or whatever it may be. Like any transition is just seconds.
Yep.
So that's something cool to look at. But I would say run, the cardio machines. For me, that sled pull 100% would be something. And then I think just knowing the course now is going to be huge. And obviously, again, there's no excuses whatsoever, but there were a lot of things going into it we just weren't aware of. On literally in the race, we found out, like, because even some of the sandbags and stuff, we were confused what weight to get. And so that, 10 seconds of like, is it this one or that one? And then putting them back in the right place. We didn't know that. So we were dropping things like that. But it's really just ultimately getting faster and stronger, I think. And then knowing that at least just having one underneath your belt, I think is going to be shave 30 to a minute seconds, just knowing what to expect.
Yeah. 100%. No, I agree. So that's why I'm just itching. It's for the next one.
Yeah.
I'm already just thinking about it. I mean, I think that's the fun part. Like if you guys do these and enjoy them, like as soon as we were done, like I was very grateful and we had a fun time celebrating and enjoyed the trip. But like you
Yeah.
and I both were already talking about like getting home to train again. And that's like
Yeah.
that, like you're doing something you enjoy. So I'm
Yeah.
pumped to kind of take all those learnings and kind of put them into practice, strengthen our weaknesses, but then just continue to refine the process and just like anything in life, whether it be business, relationships, anything, like you got
Yeah.
to constantly refine the process and become more efficient and improve. And if you don't, then you'll never be better. So, yeah, dude,
Yep.
I thought it was pretty sick.
Pretty sick. Now let's get into the World Championship, because we're going to Worlds.
We're going to Worlds, baby. Where's Worlds?
Let's
Where are we
go.
going?
Manchester, England, bro.
That's crazy. I've never been out of the
Manchester,
country,
England.
dude. I've never been out of
Doug Doug has not been out of the country yet, so this is a big deal. Leading up to it, so like we knew obviously what Hyrox was. We knew the races. We knew there was a bunch of them in different cities. They have seasons, so I don't know the exact number, so I don't want to throw a number out there, but they have. So you have a season. Each year has a season, and then they go through different cities and different events in those cities. So each each race has doubles, singles, co-ed. I think there's like a ruck one where you're carrying a weighted vest, and so all of them have these different things. So we knew about Hyrox, knew the system, the seasons, but we just didn't really know much about after you complete it and the qualification process or anything like that. So that was something we were like, let's just go kill it. Let's go do it. We ended up coming in second. We were like crazy excited. But the initial start was they had the times, but our ranking was all different. So it looked like we were in third. We ended up falling in second for just like some malfunction on their app and everything. But we didn't know exactly what that meant. Was it only first place? Was it first, second, and third that got qualified? Was it based on your time, based on everyone in the whole world that was competing? We didn't know. And so we were like, do we get it? Do we not? We asked some people. They're like, this season they're doing it a little bit different. So it's based on how many people are at the event, also based on your time. And then they decide if they take just first place or first, second, or third, or whatever it may be. And so we're like, So she said, you'll get an email in like 24 hours and let you know. And so we're sitting by our like phone swiping and swiping. And then finally I get a text while I'm on the plane of a photo from Doug that says, congratulations, you've qualified. And it's in May in Manchester, England. And I freaked out on the plane, but we weren't together, which kind of sucked, but it was a very, very cool feeling. Cause that feeling of killing yourself coming to like a point when you're like, bro, I don't feel good. The day of, our legs were dead. The next day our legs were terrible. And just feeling that exhaustion and like, but also that good feeling you left it all out there, and then just getting an email saying you're qualified for the World Championship of Hyrox in England was like the coolest feeling ever.
Yeah, dude, no, it really was, man. And it's just not to get super deep, but like it really is like if you work hard for something in life and then you see the success and you see the things that come from that, like it should make you feel good. It should make you feel
Yeah.
grateful for what you put in. And I think, anyone listening, whatever you're doing, like hard work over consistent time, like will pay off and you will eventually get, what you're trying to do. So yeah, dude, it was unreal. You had already flown out. I was still in LA with Reed, and I checked my email and got it, and I was pretty jacked. So we are
Yeah.
going to Worlds, baby.
We are going to Worlds and we're excited. And the plan is to get at least one more in. We're still deciding on what we want to do there. So if any of you guys want to do one or interested, we will be doing another one. We can double down on an event. I don't know which one we're going to. There's a few. I think it's Chicago, Houston, Dallas. But
Yep.
we're just wanting to get one more underneath our belt. Maybe get a nice little win on it, and then we'll go into Worlds. A little more experience and one more underneath our belt, and just being a little more familiar with the course, the race, how our body's feeling, also how the training's going, because the training's already started. And so those are in around February. And so we're thinking of doing one of those to be like midway point. And then the Worlds is in May 27th, I believe, in Manchester. Crazy.
Dude, we're gonna have to celebrate with crumpets. Dude, I'm
Crumpets.
excited. I'm
I'm
excited.
gonna go to a Man U game.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll go to one of those too. I don't even like soccer like that, but you gotta go.
Gotta
Oh
go.
man, this was dope. I think yeah, we got a few questions from just people that chimed in over social media. We touched on most of them, so I'll just kind of read them out and then we can quickly just summarize. But first one is, what were your expectations going in, and did you ever think that Worlds was even possible on the table when you did it? So I'll let you kind of take the first swing at that. I know we kind of touched on it, but
Yeah, so I think I kind of touched on it earlier, but um our expectation was to do well. I mean, we were like grateful or like super grateful we're able to, lift and be fit, and like I'm very grateful for that. But luckily we are, and we know we're fit and we can kind of push ourselves to the limit, and we also like doing that. So we knew where we stood in that aspect. And so I think our expectations were pretty high on ourselves. We both D1 college athletes. And so we knew what it took underneath pressure to get things done. Um, our goal was underneath an hour, but it wasn't like we just needed right close to an hour and be happy. It was to really go the full distance as hard as possible and put up the best time, but we wanted sub-hour. Um, and we didn't know what Worlds really was. We were hoping to qualify. We'd kind of thrown it around like, yo, what if we qualify? But we just didn't know how to do it. And so we're like, if we come in first and qualify, then sick. If we don't, then, let's just try to put up the best time, and we'll maybe do another one if we want to do it. So yeah, that's kind of what we expected. And, we went into it just really as having fun, bonding, like this looks dope. Let's just do it together, because it's not just one man show. It's both of us just killing it and getting after it.
for sure. No, I agree. To be honest with you, I 100% agree with everything you said. The one thing I didn't necessarily expect was the competition level. I didn't know what was going to happen. Like we were going to LA, I was like, this is probably a good destination for a lot of people to be competitive. So I didn't know what to expect about who was going to show up, but ultimately, we did compete. We did come out, and do pretty well. So yeah, I was grateful for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Uh,
that was. I agree with that. We were unaware of what
yeah,
the doubles look like. We don't even really know that many people that are doing the doubles. So it was just there's just a lot of unknowns, which was really honestly fun.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. Knowing what you guys know now, what would you have done differently in training? That's our second question. Again, we kind of touched on it, but I think we can give a quick summary just to throw that
Yeah.
out.
I guess we'll take this personally and then maybe together as a team. Personally, I'm excited to be able to work on specific exercises or specific stations now that I'm back home and not in Hawaii. Also, I think something I know, or I guess know now, is the run is way heavier, like should be emphasized a lot more. And then nice warm up, something I think was a little bit tricky getting a sweat on in that cold room. There's also like a lot of athletes trying to warm up, so it's a different little feel because you have so many people competing in that first little doubles heat. And so a bunch of people are warming up. So making sure you get there on time, you're not really stressed out. You're kind of there and like maybe bored almost, like you're just there and really early. And so you're able to get a nice warm up. Really just take it all in and get your nerves to come down before you even start the race. I think that would be big time. And then I think that would be it. I think a little more taper would be nice for me personally, because I did have a short window when I was trying to maximize my efficiency when I got back from Hawaii. I was trying to hit every single station and trying to hit it really hard. I was trying to destroy the lunges. I was throwing too much weight on the lunges, like a week and a half out. So a little more of a taper where I give myself a nice 5-6 days of just EMOMs or just slow runs and stuff like that, and no strength. That would be for me.
Yeah, that's good. No, I like that. I think for me personally, first and foremost, I think I could definitely have done better on the cardio machines. I think I can, again, you can get better at everything, but I think getting more
Yeah.
efficient with technique and form, and then obviously just a smoother cadence of controlled breathing. I think even coming out of the gate, you did a good job of kind of like just talking to me, but I was definitely kind of pushing a little hard. So just making sure you stay controlled while also pushing yourself. I personally want to get a little bit stronger. I mean, I think we did well on the strength stuff. We pushed the sled well, we pulled the sled well, but again, I think those are areas that I would love to just get a little bit more leveled up. And then I think the last thing is just continually practicing and just putting in the reps of that transition from legs under fatigue right into a run and trying to push the pace on the run while also trying to not let your heart rate go crazy and try to control your breathing the best you can. Like it's hard to do it, but I think that's something I definitely want to try to simulate a ton more before we, compete again.
Yeah. And to add on that, I think that shaves more seconds than you think when it is 8 stations, because you do obviously you start the run from each station pretty slow because you're obviously really fatigued and it's hard to get your legs moving after a sled push or after the lunges or wall balls are finished. Even the sled pull, because you're in that stance, burpees, all of that. So it's hard to get your legs going in that first, say, 20, 30 seconds. And so if you can shave that 30 seconds down to 15 seconds that you're under fatigue and able to run, that's a lot of seconds. And so looking at it as a big picture, that would change a lot. Is really practicing that running under fatigue could change really the whole race.
100%. In terms of things that we could probably do better together as a team, I'll throw a few out, and then you, obviously Lucas add some. But I think the transitions, it's a no-brainer. But I think there are certain things we could do from a transitional standpoint that we could improve on. I think once we get back together, either in Florida or you come up here, wherever we are traveling, just spending that time together, working out together, just kind of getting familiar with how each other, trains, who's good at what, and how we can continue to improve that balance. But yeah, I think the transitions and then just continue to refine, like, a little bit of the strategy. And I don't think we'll ever get that perfect, but maybe off the episode, I think you and I will have a deeper conversation about moving forward for the next one. There probably some changes in terms of who would start this one, who would go second. We don't have to get into all that now, but those are some things I think we could definitely improve on.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And I think it's something that comes to my head right away because I think we did a pretty good job at our first one, and there were very little like communication problems on our end. Transitions for sure is like getting stronger in those. I guess like the cardio machines and the skier, like so we don't split the skier or it's just figuring out how to do it. Like, so the lunges, it's 4 lanes, so you're having to do it 4 times. We swapped every single time. So I went a strip, you went a strip, back and forth. That's 4 transitions. If we were able to keep that same pace for us both to do 2 lanes, and so there's only 1 transition instead of, or I guess it would be 2 transition. I'm sorry. So 1 transition instead of 2 transitions of passing the sandbag, that's 5-10 seconds eating, I think, right there. And so little things like that, maybe even wall balls. Like, could we split those 50-50? Like, straight from the jump, 50, other person finish 50, let's get going. Whoever wants to start, and then the person ends it, whoever needs it. Like, things like that. Obviously, we'll dive really deep off camera when we're on our own and like get into some training together. But I think that would be huge. I think the farmers carries was huge that we only had 1 transition on that. If
Yep.
we can only have 1 transition on the lunges, I think that saves a lot of time. If we can only have, 1 transition on the burpees, that's huge. Sled pull, the same thing. I think that's where it's going to be fun, getting stronger and realizing, hey, we can go a little bit longer here, giving the other person rest, and also saving time on transitions.
Yep. 100%. Definitely agree with that. Last question we got is, what shoes did you run in? Shoes did you be in?
So I had so I've been running an Asics Noosa Tris 13s. I've been running in those for a while, and so I went to like, oh, I'm going to get some new shoes. I want to run, like, what do you run in this race? It's an endurance race, but it's also a like lifting. You need some shoes that you can do all that stuff in. The Met row, ski, be able to push a sled, all this stuff. So I was just like, what shoes do I wear? So I got some Nike Metcons, and then I got some just Nike runners. Didn't really like either one of those. The Metcons were a little too heavy, flat. I just wanted to see what they would feel like. The runners, I just didn't feel well. So last minute, I ended up finding some another pair of Asics. I was like, I'm just going to go with what I've been running with and working with the whole time. So I went to an Asics store. They ended up having the Tri 13s. Got a pair of those, and I loved them. I probably wouldn't. I would probably will run worlds in Asics unless I somehow find a better shoe. But I was obsessed with them.
You also don't realize that when your shoes like get bald at the bottom and burn out, you got to get new shoes. So you were about to run in your old ones. Thankfully, you got a new pair of the same shoe that you love.
Guys, I don't put me on blast. I'm not an endurance like guru. I don't know how that works. So I've been running in the same pair of Nikes forever until Doug came along and was like, "Yo, what are you running in?" And I was like, "Bro, I'm just running." So he hooked me on the Asics, and then I definitely needed a pair after those were pretty worn out.
Yeah, I have to give credit to Kate there. That's not something she taught me that, and now I teach other people that. But yeah,
Hey.
as a runner, you can't run in beat shoes. You will get injured. You'll get shin splints. Bad things will happen. Likely, obviously, I'm not going to put out a statement that's indefinite. Consult your doctor at all times. But but for real, no, you got to have good shoes, and don't forget that this is half a running event. So whatever shoes you do select, make sure they're good enough to run in. While the Metcons are good for working out, I don't think they're the best shoe to do that many miles in. But again, you got to do what's best for you. But yeah,
I did see a few people in the Metcons, but they did not win.
No.
One thing, I know you wore Brooks, correct?
I did not wear Brooks.
Thought you wore Brooks. One thing I did see, there were so many Brooks.
Yeah.
And I've seen it some of the pro guys that have been doing it for a couple of years and 3-4 years, all wear Brooks. So I was very interested in that, and I might go purchase a pair to see. I don't know which ones because I'm not a shoe boy like Doug. But I do want to try this out. I like all the pros had them, the singles pros, and then I don't know, intrigued.
Yeah. No, yeah, I've actually heard good things about the Brooks from the people that I spoke to before that had done a Hyrox. They recommend Brooks. I actually ended up running in the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2s, which honestly, it was a great shoe. I'm not super familiar with Saucony. It's kind of, I'm still getting used to that brand. I actually really like the Asics that Lucas ran in, but I wanted to change it up, test those out, and that shoe is very light. I feel like it's moderately durable, but it's strong enough to definitely compete. And I liked it a lot. I would definitely consider running it again. We have so much time between now and then that I probably will test out some other shoes. But
Yeah.
overall, I thought it was a decent shoe to run in, so it was good.
Yeah. I will say the Asics were a little bit, a little too runny, whatever way you like want to say it. Because when I was doing the lunges, I wasn't as like a few times I kind of got wobbly. And it wasn't anything crazy. It was just they weren't as sturdy. So when I was landing and doing lunge after lunge, they were a little bit kind of too cushiony at that point, I guess. I don't know. Which didn't really hold a problem. It was just off balance 1 or 2 seconds. And then wall balls are a little bit different. I got used to them because I've been wearing them so long, but the wall balls were a little difficult in A6 for some reason. So I kind of have a little rock on the ASIC, and I start rocking with my wall balls.
For sure, for sure.
So I definitely want to try another shoe for sure.
And as we wrap this up, I do want to give a quick shout out to the guy that did the entire race in sandals. We saw this guy literally was in like, I don't know if they were Chacos or what they were, but dude ran and competed and did the whole Hyrox in open-toed sandals, which I don't know why, but he did it. So congrats to him.
Hey, so you can do it anything. You can finish the race in whatever shoe you want to.
I wonder if you ever tried to do it barefoot.
I don't know. Those barefoot shoes, I might try those out next time.
Yeah. We'll see. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you so much for listening to this episode. This was super fun. Lucas, thank you for coming back on the show. And we are going to start training for Worlds, which you guys will get to see. Let's document it. We're going to document it. We're going to bring you guys along. We're going to have fun. We're going to kill it. And we're going to crush it with you guys.
Yes, sir. Let me know or let us know and, DM us, whatever. Let us know what you guys want to see because we are going to try to take this world little series serious. We're going to start kind of documenting our workouts. We're going to start writing them out, potentially an app. I'm not going to give any shout out. Maybe we might do some kind of programming with it. It's fun. And we thought, why not just get really serious into this and really, try to compete in worlds. So let us know if you guys would like us to do something like that or really dive deeper into the fitness world, the programming world, even into the nutrition world, whatever that looks like. We want to go serious in it because we just thought, why not? So let us know what you guys want, what you guys think, and we're going to Worlds.
We're going to Worlds, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. I appreciate you having me. I love being on here and love what you're doing. And for everyone listening, keep listening. This dude's amazing.
Let's go. You're the man. Let's go. Appreciate it. This was a fun one. Until next time, when you come back on after we have the World Championship.
Let's go.